We are just finished with primaries in Wisconsin and a couple of other states, and what a surprising outcome it was. Tim Michels and Rebecca Kleefisch were expected to be tied, approximately, but then Michels surged ahead, and despite of people like Timothy Ramthun being to his right and will probably take votes away from him, he won by 5.2 percentage points. And I know Trump endorsed Michels, most other Republicans endorsed Kleefisch, but what I really think damaged Kleefisch here is that she got too much aligned with people like Mike Pence and Nikki Haley, who endorsed her. Now, if she was only aligned with people like Tom Tiffany and Scott Walker, who was of course also supporting her, this would sort of be a local candidate with local support versus a Trump puppet, but instead you have Trump versus Pence matchups that you have had all over the country, and Tim Michels was able to really gain from that and win the anti-establishment vote, even winning one of the WOW counties. And it was just, in the end, a blowout, and though I personally sort of like both candidates, this is a completely fine outcome. But more interestingly, I think it is that in the same state, we can see a Republican turnout at a top 692,000 to the Democrats. Well, at least in the Senate race, 501. So 672 in the Senate race for the GOP, 501 for the Democrats. And this is a swing state, one that Biden won, and the turnout difference is this big, which is, well, it does say a lot about where the energy is. And that's also something else I want to cover today. The turnout differences in different states, and yeah, Wisconsin is a good place to start, because Republicans, well, they are on the offensive, except from in the Senate race. Another race that was just called, or hasn't been called yet by the New York Times, is the one with Joe Kent and Jamie Herrera Butler. She has conceded, and Joe Kent, another Trump-endorsed America First fighter, will go on to the general against the Democrat in November, which was his best case scenario. It was a danger that the MAGA and the right-wing Republicans would split the votes, as they definitely did in the other districts. I mean, they did here too, but not enough. So Joe Kent was able to hold on to enough votes to get a second place, barely. He was almost screwed over by these other people, Heidi St. John and Vicky Kraft, but he is alive and well. So that is another important primary over. It was sort of a double-edged sword in the upper Midwest, because in Minnesota the Democrats really outpaced the Republicans in terms of turnout. I believe if we go and look at the governorship, this is a good place to start. Tim Walz, 431,000 for him and the other Democrats, while all the Republicans combined only got 323,000, which is 100,000 less. And people are talking about that Minnesota has better primary results for Democrats, or they are stronger in the summer. I think maybe it has a lot to do with the voter registration, but I don't think this is very good for the GOP anyway, and that this race is probably going to go Democratic, despite the polls having it quite close. But there are other swing states too, and I think we need to look a bit more at the turnout in them. So let's start out west in the state of Arizona. If you compare the Republican turnout to the Democratic one, what do you see? It's a quite big advantage. I think that Democrats have like 70% of the votes that Republicans have. And yes, they might be more united among their candidates in this race in particular, as well as in the Senate race, but to be honest, the enthusiasm is on the Republican side. And yeah, I mean, you have to look at the swing states in order to really determine that. Another one is Nevada. Nevada with Laxalt versus Masto. She had a primary challenger or two, and Laxalt had, of course, Sam Brown. And in the end, it was about the same as in Arizona. For every 10 Republicans that turned out to vote, about 7 Democrats did so. 7 to 8. So yes, this was another sign that the Democrats were not keeping up. It stands that it also is only 81% reporting. I'm not sure if I buy that. That would be a bit too optimistic for the Republicans in that case. And then of course you have the governor races where there was also a similar outcome. And I looked at the House races, and they were also showing a quite good result for Republicans. Here in the first district, which is where Dina Titus represents, that one had a higher Republican turnout than Democratic one, and I believe that it was similar in the district with Susie Lee, yes, the third district. And yeah, we don't have any data on the fourth because of Stephen Horsford's running unopposed. Alright, so let's get to the next swing state. What about the state of Georgia, which should be a safe red state and might move back to being a bit bright red-ish in this turn, because look at this difference. 727 to 1,100,075. Herschel Walker is a controversial candidate. It's a controversial choice, an unproven product, but the enthusiasm on the Republican side was so high that he alone got more votes than all Democrats combined, and yes, Warnock was sort of unopposed, but the combined Republican vote tally is just insane compared to the Democratic one. The enthusiasm gap is quite big, and you can see that again in the Secretary of State election, which of course was also quite contested between the Raffensperger and Jody Heiss. Attorney General, a bit less exciting because Chris Karn was, well, he didn't get the same attention from either side of the aisle. And yeah, that was the state of Georgia. We are still waiting for New Hampshire. That's one I'm very excited about. And there are some states like Texas and Ohio, where the governorship and the Senate races, respectively, Republicans got twice as many votes as the Democrats. At least nearly twice as many, so this one is not going to be competitive at all. Democrats are not enthused about Beto O'Rourke's candidacy whatsoever. And well, yes, since I mentioned it, we can also take a look at Ohio. And yeah, J.D. Vance got more than twice. No, sorry, the Republicans got more than twice as many votes as Tim Ryan. Of course, there are some, like Matt Dolan voters who are not going to support J.D. Vance, but I don't think that's going to be enough to change the outcome in anyway. And the next big state I think we have to look at is the state of Pennsylvania, because this is one where Republicans arguably don't have the most electable candidates, but I would say neither does the Democrats. If they had chosen Conor Lamb, he would have better chance in the general than Fetterman. Same thing if Republicans have picked, I don't know, Bochetto or someone, they would have had a bigger chance in the general than us. But overall, the Republican turnout here is not that much bigger than the Democratic one. It is bigger, but only by a couple of percentage points, really. So it's not a big, what may you call it? It doesn't tell you a lot about the motivation for the general. Also, this was before Dobbs. Some of the other results we have looked at, like Wisconsin, were after Dobbs. So this might not be too promising, but we know that the motivation is definitely with a base when it comes to Mastriano, and many of these people will probably also vote for us when they have first showed up to the polls. So Pennsylvania is not looking too bad for the Republicans. And here is another one. Holy crap. I mean, Darren Bailey and the other Republicans combined barely got less votes than J.B. Pritzker and his Democratic challenger. 788,000 to 830. This is in deep blue Illinois, and it's that close, really. So it's definitely Republican enthusiasm all across the country. What we still have left to look at is, of course, Florida and New Hampshire. But for now, I think it is safe to say that the red wave lives on, and is not too intent on slowing down either. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.